Hallöchen you guys, how are you guys doing today? So what we'll be doing today is something different. I used to have a booktube channel here on YouTube back in the days, like 8 years ago or something crazy like that. And since reading got more and more involved in my life again, and I'm reading a lot more than I used to the last years, I wanted to include books on this channel just like I used to do, basically. There will be 2 book related videos a month at least. First one will be the monthly recap, and I will tell you about the books I've read that month, and then I will talk in another video about my TBR to be read this month, basically. If there's other book content I can think of during the month, maybe it will follow up, who knows. But without further ado, we are just gonna talk about my monthly reading recap for the month of October. Oh, just another note, I haven't said it in any video before, but I'm uploading every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and sometimes on Sunday when there is a holiday in that week or something like that. Like the 1st of November was a holiday here in Germany, so I didn't upload a video, but there will be a video on Sunday, which is this video. So, and now, without further ado, let's get into my monthly recap. I will try to insert the pictures of the books I've read here, so I scoot over. So I have read 13 books this month, which is quite nice, if you ask me. And yeah, and there was no big dud, so that's good as well. So the first 2 books I've read were the 2nd and 3rd installment of a new adult series written by German authors, Carrie Price and Ellie Taylor, which are pseudonyms, aliases. The series is called Make It Count, and the first book was written by Ellie Taylor, the second by Carrie Price, the next is by Ellie Taylor, and the last one is by Carrie Price. So I read the second book, which was Make It Count, Gefühlsbeben, which is like emotion or feeling quake, like your emotions are quaking, or you know. This book had 250 pages, wasn't a very thick book, a very long book, and it was about story-wise it was nice. For a new adult book. It was about a girl who experienced something pretty traumatic in her teenage years, and she's suffering from PTSD basically, and she's doing things that are considered dangerous just to feel alive, I guess. And someone who is quite popular around, he's like a bartender, he rescues her from a very dangerous situation she was in, and from that moment on there's something between them. You don't know what it is and how they are connected at first, but you know, in the end this is what will happen, basically. But to find out what tragic event has happened in her past was very interesting to me, and this was one of those tragic incidents. It was one of those moments I was like, this is an idea. Like, you have read basically everything. It's usually always such a thing with new adult romances. Like, there's always a tragic backstory. The bad boy is always like something hunted him or something like that. The girls are usually the good girl, and you know, all those cliches. This one was a bit different. The writing style wasn't my it wasn't the best, let's say it like that. So I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, 3 stars out of 5. It entertained me enough. It wasn't bad by any means. The third book in that series is also Make It Count, because that is the name of the series, and it's called Threesome. Dreisam will be Threesome, I guess. And this one is written by Ellie Taylor, and I prefer Ellie Taylor's writing to Carrie Price's. And this book also got a 3-star rating from me, and this is about a girl who basically ran away after she had an incident with her best friend, and she is afraid that everything changes between them now that this incident happened. And now that she's back, she doesn't know where they stand, especially since the first night she is back in town, she meets this very hot guy and they have a moment, and what we later realize, which is also on the short text on the inside, so everyone knows basically, he is the older brother of her best friend, like step brother. So that's different, right? Different, yeah. This book was better written than the other Make It Count one, but it had a weaker plot than the one before, so also 3 stars because it had the better writing but the worst story. Next books I read were the first and the second book in the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. So the Cruel Prince was, I would say it was my monthly highlight. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the plot. I loved the characters. It was just, I love to hate tropes. I die for them. So in Cruel Prince, it's about this girl who's called Jude, and she was taken by a fae when she was little. Her parents were killed by the fae, and he took them into the fae world, and yeah, he raised her like a father, but she's a human, and people mock her and bully her when she is going to fae school. And the prince of the fae, one of the princes of the fae, is one of the most cruel fae to her. Like, he is the cruel prince, obviously. This book got a 5 out of 5 stars from me, just like The Wicked King, which was the second book, and I'm so pissed that the third book in the series releases in 2020 in German. So I'm so close to say, well, I just do it and buy the third book in English, because I just want to know what happens next. I won't say anything about the plot of the second book, obviously, because that would be a spoiler, but just so you know. And then I finished A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. that got a 4-star rating from me. This is the second book in the Amber in the Ashes and Amber in the Ashes series, which is inspired by Roman by the Roman Empire, with soldiers that are like how you imagined back in the day with Julius Caesar, with, you know, an emperor, and it has those vibes, definitely. And while I really enjoyed the first book, the second was a bit weaker for me. I needed a lot more time to get through it. It wasn't as fast-paced for me as the first one was. And to be honest, I was really debating not reading the third book because, I don't know, it just lost me somewhere. But it is well written, the idea is great, so there's no way I can give it a lower rating. That's what I wanted to say. So, next book was Losing It from Cora by Cora Carmack. That one was also a new adult book, to get me out of that slump after Torch Against the Night, because that really got me a bit down. It was very hard for me to push through that one. And new adult books, usually just you read through them because they're super easy, super chill to read. And Losing It by Cora Carmack got a 3-star rating from me. This is about a girl who basically is trying to lose her virginity because she feels like it's not normal for a girl her age as a student in college to be a virgin. And so she goes to a club, there's a guy, he's hot, he reads Shakespeare, and they get to talk. She takes him home. A few days later, she finds out he is her new teacher. Another trope, one I don't like as much as the hate to love trope, but I really enjoyed the writing by Cora Carmack. It was a bit cheesy, it was a bit predictable. Obviously there was drama that was unnecessary, just like always in those kinds of books, but it was enjoyable. I got through it very quickly, so 3 stars from me. Then a book from my favorite German thriller author, Sebastian Fitzek. The book is called Flugangst 7a, which is like when you're afraid of flying with a plane. Flugangst, and 7a is the seat inside that plane, basically. This book was typical for Sebastian Fitzek. It always starts with a scene you have no idea what is happening there, and you don't know how it's related with the rest of the book, but you're like, okay, I don't know what you want to tell me, but I will find it out. So this book is about a guy that is inside, well, he is in a plane and he is going back to Berlin for the birth of his grandson or granddaughter, I don't even remember anymore. But his daughter is pregnant and she's about to give birth, and he wants to go there to visit her, obviously. And what happens is that he gets a call right before the plane gets off, and he gets instructions to find a woman he helped in the past, because he's a psychologist and psychiatrist. A woman he helped in the past who is a sociopath, and he should redo his help and make her get into the cockpit and make sure this plane would crash and kill everyone in it. And if he doesn't do it, his daughter would die because they captured her. They took her, and she's about to give birth. She's already it's already time, like, yeah. And they kidnapped her and they are torturing her. And so he needs to find out who that person is he helped, because that wasn't mentioned in that call. He has to find out who that girl is, who that person is, how he should be able to undo his doing and make this person a sociopath again. Then he tries to find out who that person is who is threatening him, so maybe he can do something else and rescue everyone else on this plane. And he also tries to figure out who has kidnapped his daughter, because there need to be more than one person behind this, obviously. So that is basically what is happening in this book. And I really enjoy Sebastian Fitzek books. This one was a bit weaker for me. I found like the solution, the end of this book was absurd. There were points of it that were just like, I get that thrillers aren't always like, yeah, all of this makes sense, this could happen in reality, but there were parts I was like, okay, that's far-fetched, but okay. It was still good. I still was on the edge of my seat all the entire time. The psychology behind this was amazing. I applaud Sebastian Fitzek for his ideas anyways. So it was great. And then the next book I read was Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart and Queen of Ruin. This is the second book in this series by Tracy Banghart, and it's a dystopian novel based on or inspired by Italian culture, and women are not allowed to have an opinion, they aren't allowed to read, they aren't allowed to work certain types of work, basically. They're only allowed to be like maids and stuff like that, like very female appropriate things. And there's the king, and his oldest son is about to announce his first grace. And graces are females that are like concubines, like mistresses, and for that most of the girls in this land are trained to be like, they learn to dance, they learn to be seductive, they are trained to be beautiful and shy and be everything that is perfect in this world. And one of our protagonists was raised to be that, and her sister is basically the exact opposite. She hates everything about this country, she hates everything about society, she wants to break free, and it is how it is. Her sister gets picked to be one of the possible graces for the heir, and she gets taken with her sister to the capital to be her handmaiden. And what happens in the end is that she gets to be the grace, and her sister, who was actually raised to be a grace, is sent away to an island prison because she did something she shouldn't have done, that was forbidden for women. So that is the base premise, basically. People have said it is like a combination of selection and the Hunger Games, and I can actually agree on that. This sounds very strange, and that combination doesn't sound like it would match, and most of the time it doesn't. But yeah, it's something like that. The first book gave me a lot of hope that I would love this duology. I liked the characters, I liked their development, I liked how they were forced in situations they weren't comfortable with, that they had to overthink their own attitude and their own acting and their own thinking. I liked that a lot. What lacked, and that is about the first book and the second book, the world building. There was basically no world building. Like, you were supposed to accept that everything is how it is in this world, like that women have no rights. Like, you're supposed to just accept it and be like, okay, it's the way it is. It's the way it is. I don't know. It was difficult to be sympathizing with the characters, because you're like, why is this one girl the first girl to feel like the society is bad? Like, she's very like rebellious, and it feels like she's the first girl to ever be that way, and that is so weird to me. Like, this makes no sense. So the first book, as I said, gave me hope. I gave it a 4-star rating because I liked the characters, I liked how the author was getting us there, but the second book was a letdown. That got a 3-star rating, especially because of the ending. The ending was very underwhelming. It was like, this makes no sense and this wouldn't work anywhere. Even the Game of Thrones finale had more sense behind it, and that means a lot. Then I read 3 books by Mary E. Pearson. I started with The Heart of Betrayal. This is the second book in the Remnant Chronicles series. I have read the first one, The Kiss of Deception, I think it was called. I have read it like 3 years back or something, and now I felt like it's time to read the second book, and I was really unsure if I would just ease into it or if I had to reread the first one, but it was super easy. I just got back into it and I loved it. A 5-star rating for me, because I loved everything about it. Everything. This is a fantasy series about a girl who she's a princess of this country called Morrhigan, and she's supposed to marry the prince of another country, but she doesn't know him and she doesn't want to marry him, so she runs away. She just runs away with her handmaiden, and she gets to live in a city and be chill and live her life as a normal girl, not knowing that there are 2 people following her, the prince and an assassin who is supposed to kill her, and we are not knowing who is who. Like, there are 2 guys she's communicating with over time, and we don't know who's the prince, who's the assassin, and that's the premise of the first book. And the second book picks up right after the first one, and it was amazing. 5 stars. Then I read a novella that is called Morrhigan, which is about the girl who is the founder of this country, Morrhigan. She's called Morrhigan. It was named after her. And it's a novella that describes how Morrhigan got to this place where this country was found. what happened to her and how different the actual story is from what people are being told so many years later in the Remnant Chronicles. Then I read the third book, the final book in the Remnant Chronicles, that is called The Beauty of Darkness. In German we have two books, like the book is split in two. So you will see both cover designs over here. Those got also 5 stars for me because it was an amazing finale. It was an amazing finale, and I get how the German publisher was able to divide it, like split it, because there is a point where like the plot lines just split. Like you see basically a line, you're like, okay, this story has ended and it's about to go in a different direction. So that wasn't really all that bad. It worked, and as I said, the finale was great. I loved it. Then I read Verity by Colleen Hoover. I got this book because of Kate. I don't even know what her channel name is, but I will link her channel down below. I feel like we have a lot of things in common reading wise. The Cruel Prince was also a recommendation of hers and I loved it, obviously, so I tried to read Verity from Colleen Hoover, by Colleen Hoover. This got a 4-star from me. This is, I think, the first thriller Colleen Hoover was writing, because usually she's writing new adult books. And this is about a girl who is an author, but her books aren't very popular. And after her mother died, she has quite a bit of financial troubles, and she gets this pretty amazing deal where she picks up the remaining, where she has to, or she should write the remaining 3 novels to a very popular series by another author, because she isn't able to do it anymore. So she gets to her place and lives with the family to go through the notes and everything for the series. But what she finds is an autobiography that is very disturbing to her and makes her want to leave. Like, she really wants to leave because the things she reads there are insane. And what really seems to be polarizing is the ending. I knew something strange would happen because that's what everyone says, that there is a plot twist at the end. And after a certain development close to the end, I was like, okay, I know what the plot twist is, and I knew what the plot twist is. I read a lot of thrillers, so I guessed what the plot twist was, and I understand how people would find it polarizing. Like, some people will love this, some people will definitely hate this. If you like being mindfucked, then this could be a book for you. It's not the best thriller I ever read, but for a new adult writer, this is very good, very well written. Too many sex scenes for my liking in a thriller, but it's Colleen Hoover. Yeah, 4-star rating from me. It was a very good book. So those were my 13 books I read. We had 4 3-star books, we had 4 4-star books, and 5 5-star books. I read a total of 5,233 pages. That makes 160 68.8 pages per day. So this was my recap for this month. I hope we'll see each other in the next video. Bye!